Hello, welcome to another session of $5 in the World. This is a YouTube channel I set up in conjunction with a book project I'm working on. For those of you who've been here before are familiar with it. It is based on sayings and experiences of my father, Burr Gray, and as well as some of his stories. And I'm doing this project because so many people that knew him and other people have heard of him from talking to me or my brother or other people have always said, God, those are amazing. That's a great saying. Those are funny stories. Someone should write those down. And I've always thought the same thing. And for years, I didn't do it. I'd jot some things down in a journal from time to time, put it on a goal list every few years to write. And for whatever reasons, none of them that I'm proud of, I guess, I just never did it. I never stopped thinking about it. And finally, I realized probably about the time a couple of birthdays ago, I'm like, I need to do this. This is something that I've talked about for too long. And I really do not like having a list of someday I'm gonna's. I just think yeah, I know on one level, it's kind of arrogant to assume that you got all the time in the world to do the things that are on your heart to do. And I just think it's best to be in the habit of, as one of my dad's expressions, if you think it, do it. Don't take tomorrow for granted. Don't take it for granted that the idea is always going to be fresh, that it's always going to be there at your beck and call. Inspiration is one of those funny things that kind of can vanish on a person. So I just made a resolution to do that. And one of the things I decided to do to help me stay on track is to set up this YouTube channel so that every week I would have to have something to talk about, something to share. And that's helped me a lot. But what's helped me even more is the feedback and the advice and the input I've gotten from people that have watched these. And I just hope you keep watching and sharing what you think about it. And I hope that you'll help me grow this channel and share it with others. It's a free subscription. Um, and so it's just a click and you're on. If you don't want to go to the trouble of doing that, you can message me some other way and I can just copy and paste a link to you as well. I just want to get this out a bit. I want to make sure that it fits a need or satisfies somebody's um, desire to learn something new or get a different insight. The biggest thing about dad that I really admire, always have, always will, and I've tried to model my own life after is his perspective and the way he framed his experiences. He had a way of making sure that whatever he remembered and whatever he acted on served him and others around him in some way. He was not one to hold grudges. He was not one to nurse old wounds or hurts. He did not live his life around his disasters. He figured out a way to convert those into energy, convert those into lessons and the good stuff. He would celebrate and pay it forward, as the saying goes. He had a way of just turning processing things in a way, not in a way of denial. He'd acknowledge when he took a hit, lost his company, or an important employee quit, or a loved one died. He would feel all those things deeply. And yet he knew they were all part of this fabric of life and they were not meant to end anything. They just signaled a different change, a new chapter, and so forth. And I find that to be such a great way to live a life of vitality, aliveness, I've heard it referred to as. And I just want to share with as many people as possible because I think it's sorely lacking in a lot of lives. It's not because they're bad people are bad people, it's they don't know any better. And that was something my dad talked about a lot too, is it wasn't that he said almost the same thing. It's not that people are bad people, they just don't know any better. They just don't know what's possible. They don't believe it's out there for anybody. And he really did. And he proved it by how he lived. And he helped others discover it as well. So I think there's a lot of value in these things. And this is what I want to share today is about I think it's really useful for making your personal relationships, the ones that are most important to you, stronger and healthier and more resilient. And it's called Let's Go for a Drive. I'm going to share that with you today. Communication mattered a great deal to Dad. He saw it as the method best suited for success, especially mutual success. While the impulse to shut down during a difficult time feels strong, Dad knew that communication about what is happening provides the best opportunity for a meaningful resolution. People argue and fight, disagree about fundamental values, vote for opposing candidates, and these become reasons for people to stop talking to each other. The idea of cutting a person out of one's life over differences of opinion proved to be a rare choice for Dad. He used his creativity and imagination to find any point of connectivity with an alienated person and then work on closing the gap from that point of agreement. Effective conflict resolution requires a few elements for it to work: the right words, an open and curious mind, good listening skills, self regulation of one's temperament, and timing. The right thing said at the wrong time can be crushing to the other person, according to the theologian Timothy Keller. Saying the wrong thing at the right time results in further distance between the parties. While Dad possessed clarity about what he believed and why he believed as he did, he maintained an openness to hearing the other perspective. He knew that if he desired to deal with another person, he better know where they were coming from on a given issue. He wanted to know what they believed and why they believed it. As a business owner, he had quite a bit of control over the timing of a message or a discussion. He could call for a meeting. He could visit one of his dealerships and meet with whomever he chose. He favored face-to-face meetings for anything of consequence, and at the same time, he wouldn't hesitate to pick up the phone to make a call when time was of the essence. In his personal relationships, timing of a discussion could be trickier. Friends and family can be a little harder to pin down for a discussion, especially if it's one the other person may be trying to avoid. Because dad was not an authoritarian as a parent or a husband, he didn't really impose discussions on us. He relied on incentives and invitation for the most part. When I talked to people closest to him about sayings they recalled, one of the expressions all of them remembered was, "Let's go for a drive." I'm surprised that I didn't already have that one on my list. I heard it myself many times. Fortunately, he did not mean it like they did in the old gangster movies. It was not a one-way trip for somebody. He just liked the privacy and the escape-proof nature of being in a car talking. I wonder if this grew out of his life as a cab driver. He timed the summons when he needed to chat about something that was more personal in nature for him or the person he wanted to speak with. He timed it for when he felt pretty sure that the person wasn't busy doing something else. He wouldn't pull somebody away to have this chat. It would be a distracting trip if he did. He wanted to set a stage and provide attention. The subject matter proved to be eclectic. In my high school days, a lot of the chat was really just a systems check on me. I partied a lot then, and while he didn't approve, he didn't want us to stop communicating. Rebellious and disobedient is one thing. Alienation would have been worse. The car rides proved to be a pressure release valve for both of us. I mean, what is so terrible about driving around on a nice day? He would always have me stop at a gas station, fill up my car. He just wanted to keep the lines of communication open, share some advice, ask a few questions. He expanded this approach during the summers by hiring me to drive him around the state to visit his sales offices. I loved that job because no matter how self-indulgent I got in those days, I never stopped liking my dad. Other people would get marriage advice. Some people would get a reminder on how they could handle their finances. Sometimes he could tell when a person felt down and he would deliver a pep talk. One time, during a birthday party for me, he took Chuck to Chicago to alleviate Chuck's sense of feeling left out of things. He would talk to our friends in the car, which anyone can recall as a forbidden act during the teen years. Most of our friends didn't seem to mind. He delivered these messages about life, behavior, finances, and so many other issues, and then we would get back from the drive and go on about our days. These drives remind me of so many of his relationship principles. Communication. Make time for the people that matter. If you're thinking about it, talk about it. Be a great listener and be patient. Whomever I talked to about this expression would joke about dreading hearing that statement and then acknowledge the value of each drive. Dad just wanted to understand and to be understood. He wasn't one to let things fester or otherwise go unsaid. He understood that life is not something to take for granted. Unsaid feelings and ideas, well, are they even real in any meaningful way? He taught us a lot about making time for the important things in life. Convenience is way less important than connection. Looking back at the moments, it felt like an inconvenience, and it was. That's one of the points here. Relationships are worth the effort, the inconvenience. In this day, in in those days, he had a whole lot more going on in his life than any of the people he was speaking with, and he did it anyways. We didn't have a den in our home for the father son heart to hearts. We had the car. Make sure to have a go to move for those important personal conversations with loved ones and colleagues. It doesn't have to be a car, but it needs to be something. So that's what I have so far. Let's go for a drive. I don't know how many times I heard him say that. It's funny. I've talked, like I said, I talked Kathy, my wife, when Kathy and I were dating, then early on in our marriage, and all through, as long as my dad was alive, every now and then he would come up to Kathy and go, "Let's go for a drive," and they would talk about me. They would talk about her. They would talk about what's going on with him. They would talk about, you know, marriage stuff. They would talk about money stuff. Um, Chuck got a lot of my brother got a lot of those drive arounds too. And everyone that knew him that, that was close to him, and he would do that with them. Um, he would do that. Like I said, when we were riding around and we'd have friends in the car, and he knew that maybe something was going on with the other kid's life or something. He would figure out a way to bring up something next to it, not directly at it. He would kind of throw out a story about himself or somebody he knew. And his goal was always, to have some kind of breakthrough where help somebody reframe an experience, help somebody see it a different way, a way that might serve them better. Get rid of some of that anger, or get rid of some of that despair, or get rid of some of that resentment, or get rid of some of that confusion, and just get get a better track on life. That's just all he just seemed to have that as a mission for himself. I think it's God given that he would just strive to help somebody see how good life could be, and how much control really that we each have over how we think and how we feel and what we say and what we do. Not absolute control. Nobody has that, but we have more than we exercise. And he wanted to bring that out. And he also didn't want people to ever settle for less than what they hoped for. He wanted them to stretch. He wanted them to take chances. He wanted to encourage them in those things. And if it was within his resources or his capabilities, he would participate in some way. He would help. He would lend money. He would give them a job opportunity. He would refer them to somebody. He really would take that kind of an active engagement as long as that's what the other person wanted to do. I, I think there's so much about him that wanted to connect and wanted to see people live their best lives, because he knew how fun life could be, how fulfilling life can be when you really feel like you're aligned with a purpose, when you're really aligned for something bigger than yourself and you're doing it for other people. He wasn't a saint by any means. And I don't mean to suggest that he was, but he did have this stuff figured out and he lived accordingly. And he wasn't perfect and he didn't do it all the time, every time just right. But man, he wanted to, and he talked about it, and then he did it. And I think that's really the ultimate teacher, right? Talk about it, demonstrate it, and then help the other person start doing it themselves. In the church, we call it discipleship. You teach, you demonstrate, and then you let the other person try and do it like an apprentice would. And then they go and then they pick up and they start replicating the same process with somebody else. And it just goes and goes and goes. And so I saw guys that got a start in business because of my dad. And then as they became successful, I saw them try to make other people be successful because that's how dad did it. And they would talk like that. That's how Burr did it. I saw him around church, or I saw him around other social institutions where he would do these things and other people would pick up where he left off or take on the way he did it, and they would reference back to that. You want to be role model worthy. You want to do things that if other people do it, it makes them better. Not for applause or not for acclaim or anything, but that's just the way to make the world a little bit better in your corner of it. And I know, I know for a fact that how I was living in high school and college, if I hadn't had dad as an anchor, those car drives, if I hadn't had a mom like I had, and some of the other, and my aunt and uncle and some other people that were just rock solid and would always talk to you, even when you're being a jerk, or even when I was being a jerk, and just not cut me off and not turn me away and just wanted to keep connected. I don't know where I'd be today. And it, I just know that that stuff matters a lot. And I know a lot of people that are alienated from really important people in their lives because of different reasons. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying that it takes this kind of effort, and it's not a one and done thing, and it doesn't always work every single time, but man, it's worth the effort. And when it does work, it's such a blessing. And then you'll teach somebody else how to do it too. And they'll fix a relationship. They'll repair a damaged thing. They'll repent. They'll make amend. It's not always about the other person. Sometimes it's about ourselves. And anyways, whether it's a drive around in the car, a long walk, a sit down in the den, a visit at the coffee shop, a long letter, a phone call, something. Keep the lines of communication open and have a go-to move when it feels like things are drifting. Because the longer they drift, the harder they are to fix. So that's it for today. Let's go for a drive. Love to hear that. I wish I could hear it one more time. That would be great. So since I won't hear it from him, I got in the habit of saying it to other people. That's the other thing. Once you learn the value of something, it's wise to continue doing it in your own life. And that's really the primary thing. I guess at the end of the day, that's really why I'm writing this, because I know this stuff worked in his life. It's worked some in mine and other people's life, in my brother's life, these sayings, these perspectives, and just want to I want to help other people do it too. That's it for today. I'll see you next week with another chapter. Please share, please like, please comment, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.